Why everything feels different after you hit $20,000. There is a specific kind of silence that you only hear when you have money. I don't mean the silence of an empty room. I'm talking about the silence inside your own head. If you are watching this, you probably know the noise I'm talking about. It's that background static of not enough. It's the low-level hum of anxiety that wakes you up at 3 a.m., wondering if that weird sound your car is making is going to cost you your rent payment. It is the constant mental calculus of weighing the price of gas against the price of groceries. When you have $0 or even $5,000, your life is loud. Every decision screams at you. Every unexpected bill sounds like a siren. But there is a number where the noise stops. Most financial gurus will lie to you. They will tell you that silence costs $1 million. They will tell you that you need financial independence or FU money to feel free. They are wrong. The most important number in personal finance isn't 7 figures, it's 5. Specifically, $20,000. My name is Peter Lewis. I've spent years deconstructing the mechanics of wealth, not the get-rich-quick schemes, but the actual physics of how money moves. And today, I'm going to show you why $20,000 is the event horizon of your financial life. We are going to go deep today. I'm going to break down the math of escape velocity, the psychology of risk capacity, and why, statistically speaking, if you can hit this one specific milestone, your probability of becoming wealthy doesn't just double, it explodes. To understand why $20,000 changes everything, we first have to respect the physics of where you are right now. I call the zone between $0 and $10,000 the gravity well. When you have less than $20,000, the economic universe is actively conspiring to keep you poor. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's math. It's called the high cost of being poor. Think about it. When you have no cash buffer, you cannot buy in bulk, so your unit cost for food is 20% higher. You cannot pay your insurance annually, so you pay monthly, which includes a convenience fee. If your car breaks down and costs $1,200 to fix, you don't have the liquidity, so you put it on a credit card at 24% interest. Now that repair doesn't cost $1,200, it costs $2,500 over the next 2 years. This is what I call negative compounding. Just as wealth compounds upwards, poverty compounds downwards. Friction consumes about 15 to 20% of a low-income earner's potential wealth. Late fees, overdraft fees, high interest rates, the inability to wait for a sale, these are all taxes on the broke. This is why the first $20,000 feels impossible. You are building a sandcastle while the tide is coming in. You are running up a down escalator. But here is the secret that wealthy people know, but rarely articulate. Money stops friction. At $20,000, you have enough mass to resist the tide. The car breaks, you pay cash. No interest, no stress. The problem stays a mechanical problem. It doesn't become a financial crisis. You stop bleeding. And when you stop bleeding, you can finally start building. Let's look at the math. And I don't mean the boring save money on coffee math. I mean the math of opportunity cost. When you have $2,000 in the bank, your money is a defensive tool. It is a shield. It sits there, waiting to die for you when an emergency happens. But when you hit $20,000, your money transforms. It stops being a shield and starts being a soldier. This is the asset-liability flip. Let's say the market crashes by 20%. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, this is terrifying. You might lose your job. You panic. But if you have $20,000 sitting there, a market crash isn't a crisis, it's a for sale sign. Here is a calculation that blows people's minds. If you invest $2,000 and the market goes up 10%, you make $200. That's nice. It pays for a nice dinner. It doesn't change your life. But if you invest $20,000 and the market goes up 10%, you make $2,000. Do you realize what $2,000 is? For many people, that is an entire month's worth of living expenses.
This is the threshold where your money starts buying you time. Once your portfolio can generate 1 month of freedom per year, you have officially crossed the threshold. You are no longer trading 100% of your time for money. Your money is now working a part-time job for you. This acceleration is non-linear. The jump from 0 to 20K is a slog through mud. The jump from 20K to 100K is a jog. The jump from 100K to 1,000,000 is a sprint. But you cannot sprint until you get out of the mud. But let's move away from the calculator for a moment and talk about your brain. There is a concept in psychology called cognitive bandwidth. The theory is that your brain has a limited amount of processing power. When you are broke, your bandwidth is hijacked. A study famously showed that the IQ of a person drops by up to 13 points when they are stressed about money. That is the equivalent of losing an entire night's sleep. You literally make dumber decisions when you are poor because your brain is exhausted from calculating the price of milk. When you hit $20,000, you reclaim your IQ. I remember when I hit this number. I walked into my boss's office for a performance review. In previous years, I was terrified. I needed the job. I needed the raise just to cover inflation. I was desperate. And people can smell desperation. It smells like weakness. But this time, I had $20,000 in a high-yield savings account. I calculated that I could survive for 8 months without a paycheck if I lived lean. I didn't walk in there arrogant. I walked in there indifferent. Indifference is the ultimate negotiation tactic. I wasn't afraid to lose. I laid out my value. I asked for what I was worth. And because I was willing to walk away, I got it. This is what I call walking away money. You can't buy a private island, but you can say no to a toxic boss. You can say no to mandatory overtime that burns you out. You can say no to a desperate client who underpays you. The ability to say no is the foundation of all wealth. Why? Because saying no to low-value things clears the space for high-value things. You cannot build a fortune while you are drowning in obligation. $20,000 buys you the oxygen mask. However, I need to issue a warning, and this is critical. $20,000 is the most dangerous number in finance. Why? Because $20,000 is usually the first time in your life you feel rich. You open your banking app, you see 5 digits, the commas look beautiful, and your brain, which has been starved of dopamine for the 2 years you've been grinding, starts to whisper to you. It says, you made it, you deserve a reward. Look at that new truck, look at that trip to Bali, you have the money. This is the lifestyle inflation trap. I have seen more people destroy their financial future at $20,000 than at any other milestone. They use the $20,000 as a down payment on a liability, like a luxury car, that increases their monthly burn rate. They take their freedom fund and turn it into a shiny set of chains. Do not do this. The first $20,000 is not for spending. It is for staring at. It is infrastructure. You don't dig up the foundation of your house to buy wallpaper. You leave it there so the house doesn't fall down. If you spend this money, you reset the clock. You go back to the mud. You go back to the IQ drop. You go back to the fear. And trust me, climbing that mountain the second time is twice as hard because now you know exactly how painful it is. So how do we do it? If you are sitting at $2,000 or negative $5,000, how do you get to $20,000 without waiting a decade? You need a wartime protocol. You cannot budget your way to $20,000 if you are saving $50 a month. The math doesn't work. You need velocity.
Phase 1 is the liquidity sprint. Forget investing. Forget the stock market. Forget crypto. Your only goal is cash accumulation. You need to declare a financial lockdown. For 90 days, you cut everything that isn't keeping you alive. No subscriptions, no eating out, no little treats. It hurts, it sucks, but you can do anything for 90 days. The goal here is to stop the bleeding and build the first $2,000 to $3,000 buffer. This covers the car repair. This covers the friction. Phase 2 is the income spike.
You cannot save what you don't earn. Once the bleeding stops, you must increase the inflow. This doesn't mean get a better career, that takes too long. This means gig work, overtime, selling stuff, freelancing. You are looking for gap income. If you live on $3,000 a month and earn $3,000 a month, you are stagnant. If you can earn an extra $1,000 a month delivering pizzas or consulting on weekends, 100% of that money goes to the 20K goal. This is temporary pain for permanent freedom. Phase 3 is the lock. Once you hit $10,000, you will feel the urge to slow down. Don't. This is where you automate. Set your account so the money is pulled before you see it. And here is the trick. Put the money in a separate bank. If your checking account and your savings account are at the same bank, you will transfer it. You will see it. It will tempt you. Move it to a high-yield savings account at a boring bank with no app on your phone. Make it hard to reach. I want to close with a story about a friend of mine. Let's call him David. David was a brilliant graphic designer, but he was always broke. He was talented, but he took low-paying clients because he needed the cash today. He couldn't wait 30 days for a check from a high-paying corporate client. He was stuck in the gravity well. We sat down and we mapped out a path to $20,000. It took him 18 months. He drove a beater car, he lived in a smaller apartment, he worked weekends. But the day he hit $20,000, something happened. A major tech company approached him for a contract. It was a huge project, but they paid on net 60 terms. That means you do the work now and they pay you 60 days later. Old David would have said no, he couldn't starve for 2 months. New David, with $20,000 in the bank, said yes. That one contract paid him $40,000. Do you see? The $20,000 didn't just earn interest, it allowed him to accept a contract that doubled his annual income. That is the hidden ROI of savings. It allows you to play the long game, and the long game is where the winners are. The rich get richer not because they are smarter, but because they can afford to wait. They can afford to hold the asset. They can afford to wait for the right deal. They can afford to negotiate. When you have zero, you are forced to be impatient, and the market punishes impatience. When you have $20,000, you purchase patience. So here is my challenge to you. Stop looking at the $1 million goal. It's too far away. It's discouraging. Focus entirely, obsessively on $20,000. Print that number out, tape it to your bathroom mirror, make it your phone background. When your friends ask you to go to that expensive dinner, you tell them, I'm in a sprint right now. When you want to buy that new phone, ask yourself, is this worth delaying my freedom by 2 months? Because once you cross this line, the wind is at your back. The boulder rolls down the hill. The silence settles in. And let me tell you, that silence, it sounds better than any car engine you will ever buy. I'm Peter Lewis. If you are ready to build, hit subscribe. Let's get to work.